we'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing is to approve the May minutes, which I sent out with the agenda. So does anybody have any questions or adjustments to the minutes? Okay. So can I get a motion to approve in a second? You can. So Rachel moved and Doug approved. Thank you. And then we have a number of information items, and the first one is the council liaison report, but Councilor Parker is not here tonight, so I'll have to hold off on that, but they've been busy. I know that I've been watching a few of the Zoom meetings, so there's a lot of budget discussions and a lot of, you know, there's just a lot of projects and a lot of activities going on, probably too much to talk about. So as far as the planning commission, so that's my little update. So planning commission's been really busy too. We've got some really big things coming up, but in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about, sounds mundane, but it's not, fencing code. So there's a need to rewrite all the fencing code, which has been updated over time. And so it's hard to follow, and has some places where one area might conflict with another. So folks are having a hard time following it, and there are too many issues, it appears, with compliance. So, and the city of Canby only has one compliance officer for everything. So it's doubtful that that person's going to run around and find all the code, the fencing that don't meet code. But what happens then is neighbors turn in neighbors, which is probably not a good thing. It'd be better if, you know, people knew and the contractors knew how to follow the code to start with. And they can, sometimes they don't, just because they don't try. There was a big discussion about, with the new developments going on in town, the new subdivisions, that there've been an interesting number of code violations, fencing code violations in the brand new subdivisions. So I offered, since most of them are going out towards me now, kind of out that way anyway, I said I would drive around. You know, call it a windshield survey, you know, and say, hey, here's it. And what happens sometimes though is the builders, they don't, you know, they know what they're doing. So let's just say they know what they're doing, and then but they will build the house and then sell it immediately, and then to like a maybe a realtor or somebody, and then that person sells it to actually the homeowner, and then when the homeowner moves in, they find out they have to tear their fence out. It's really bad. So it's best to catch it ahead of time. But it's mostly for places that have like a they're on a corner, or they have like a street in front of them and a street behind them, which is more common than you'd think. So there's some problems with that. But generally, if you're just in the middle of a block, regular lot, most people don't have any issues. So a lot of discussion about fencing. I guess that's probably it right now, because the next couple months we'll be bombarded with some really large development discussions, mostly industrial. So there'll be a lot more to talk about there.
There's a lot of that going on.
There's a lot of industrial going
There's a
on.
lot of places used to be a dead end street. It's not anymore.
Yeah. It's quite, even for me, only having been here 4 years, there's a big difference. Yeah.
I don't think those are starter homes. Not the starter homes I remember.
Right, right. So just an update on membership and recruitment. So we have been short a member for a while now, and we did have somebody who applied, and her name was Jennifer. And I've met with her before with other things, so I knew of her, and we had a really good talk, but then she's had some family challenges, so she backed off and said maybe later. So we're leaving the position open, and so people can still apply. This is a bad time of year. A lot of commissions, including the planning commission, have openings right now and not getting a lot of interest, but that's, I think summer, people are just so busy, and that's the last thing you think about is joining a commission or committee or something. So usually that picks up in the fall. So anyway, we continue to try to recruit for our open membership. And then we've got some notable dates coming up. The first one, and I'm going to send out an email to all of you just as an FYI when I get back home. This Thursday, there's a housing and economic study open house here at the City Hall. So the city was granted, the planning department was granted some, well, grant monies, and they hired some consultants to do a housing needs analysis. and an economic study. So one's mostly focused on residential and the other one's on industrial, if you will, or general economy and things. And some of that is because we're required by the state. Canby is required by the state to do these, well, all cities are required to do these studies. Depending on the size of your city, you have to do them every so often, and Canby's do. And basically what Canby has to do is show that there's a 20-year availability of housing. And we're short, as you can probably imagine. 20 years is, the prediction of growth for Canby in the next 20 years, and how much housing we have and how much availability of space do we have. Same thing for industrial. So we're not the only city that's done this. We're not the only town that's gone through this process, and we're not the only town that's short in terms of buildable land. And so this open house will be the results of the study that the consulting firms have done. I'm on the housing analysis subcommittee, which is a temporary little subcommittee, and I've been very impressed with the work that they're doing. It's quite surprising, some of it, that if you are I don't know if I mentioned this, but if you're a firefighter in Canby or a police officer in Canby, you likely can't afford a house in Canby. And so we're not the only ones that are like that. So McMinnville's been through this, Coos Bay is going through it, Newburgh's gone through it. So there's a big affordability challenge, and there's a big land availability challenge, which means that the growth boundary will get pushed, but probably not for a while. But the only way that Canby is going to be able to be in compliance with what the state requires for available housing is to push the growth boundary. The question is which direction. And the same for the industrial area. That growth boundary will also get pushed. But it's going to be 2 to 3 years. It has to go through the state. It's quite a lengthy process. But this analysis is fascinating. And if you can't go to the meeting, I'll send you all the details. The presentations are really well done. So it'll be really interesting. This is kind of kicking off for all the citizens to understand what's going on. I have to tell you a story now. I don't know if this happens to you too, but sometimes when I'm in like a business or something, somebody will say, "Aren't you on the planning commission?" And I'm like, oh. And so somebody said to me, "We need a new mayor." And I said, "Oh, because every time we vote to stop growth, the mayor makes the growth happen." And I said, "That has nothing to do with the mayor. That's the state. And there's no city in the state that can prevent that from happening." But they go off because they don't know. Not everybody's on Canby Facebook or doesn't read. Not everybody's on Facebook. And you read the paper. It's hard to get the word out. Not everybody knows. So I think people get off track on what's causing that, and why are these housing developments going in, and why did they just take out the last big old grove over there on 13th. And anyway, so it's really interesting, but it's really helpful, I think, just to be informed, to know who's driving all this and where's it coming from and why are we doing this and how do we compare to other towns. But anyway, so at 6 o'clock, I'll send you out an email if you all can attend.
A couple of things I remember. Oh gosh, how long ago was this? 20 years ago, there was a guy was he from Metro? Maybe he was. Spoke at our Kiwanis meeting and made the comment, by 2050, there'll be 40,000 people in camp.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And then it was maybe a little bit before that. I don't know if you knew Larry Wright. Grew up in Canby. High school principal for quite a few years. Somebody asked him, "How many students will it take to build a new high school?" I think he said 1,700. And take a look at Sherwood.
Yeah.
Sherwood's actually on their third high school.
Yeah.
The first one was the WPA project. 1936, 1971, they opened the one on Mining Road. Now they got one out by Highway 99W. Sherwood's exploded.
Yeah.
It was 52 years ago, my class only had 70. And about 2 years ago, they graduated 4.
Wow.
That's more than was in the full high school.
Jamie also sent us an invite for the 7:14.
Oh, she did. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, good. Yeah, that's really interesting. One thing about Canby is the age is changing the opposite direction. So the school enrollment is flat and declining. So there's not going to be a need for a new high school.
Yeah, there's.
But part of that is, do we want to be a retirement community? Probably not. But if the way we keep going, that's all that's going to move here, is because that's who can afford it. So anyway, it's a lot of discussion. Interesting.
Well, and there's people that are living in Portland that sell their house, buy a house, can be that money left over.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a interesting information. So anyway, and it's also available on Zoom, and I'll share everything that comes out of that meeting. Yeah, okay, that's right. Thanks. The next interesting date is our next meeting, which is Monday, August 1st. And Northwest Vernacular will be here. And all our meetings are public meetings, but I'm gonna publicize this one because they're going to present the results of their reconnaissance survey of the north side neighborhood as well as the fairgrounds. They did this 2 years ago when they finished the last reconnaissance level survey. Wasn't very well attended, but anyway, we try to give people some information about, what's going on with that. And that really aligns closely with some of the housing studies, because what do we do about the downtown area? Is there infill? What kind of infill? How do we protect the neighborhoods? Somebody asked me the other day, Saturday, I was on a garden tour, and somebody said, what are we gonna do about the sidewalks? I'll get right on that. And that's a good question, because a lot of the older neighborhoods downtown don't have sidewalks.
And there's some that
you
have
know,
sidewalks nowhere.
Yeah, right, there's plenty of that out. Anyway, so,
Judy, if you need help with getting that out, we can put that on our Facebook.
oh yeah, that'd be
and
great.
e-newsletter, so if you
Yeah.
have information on that, I'll help.
Okay, thank
Spread the
you.
word on that.
Okay, I'll get that. Yeah, I'm gonna write like a press release and get it out, and
Perfect.
a little flyer and everything.
Yeah.
But it's really good because the fact that these reconnaissance surveys help us know what we have and what's really potentially a historic something that we should save, so that, when we start working on these other housing studies to say, well, we need to take out that half a block, or somebody's gonna take that R2 lot and put an apartment on it. Well, what about the property that's on there? So it really helps us know, is that a problem, or are people gonna be concerned? So it's really perfect timing to have all of this done. So, and then the other piece that's coming out of that is that what Northwest Vernacular always helps people understand, well, if your home is listed, is on this survey as being, potentially contributing in a significant way, what can you do about that? Or if you want to, but what are the next steps if people want to protect their property? So that'll be good timing. So that's our next meeting, August 1st. It'll be downstairs in Northwest Vernacular here. And then our Zion Cemetery annual cleaning is set for Saturday, the 24th. So I confirmed that date with the city. That's our normal Saturday. We usually do it the third Saturday of September, and the weather is always beautiful. So that's nice. So anyway, just keep that for your guys' hearts. I think when the weather's beautiful, we don't get as many volunteers. It's when the weather's kind of cold that we do better volunteer wise. So I get that. So we understand that. Okay, any questions about those things? Okay, I need to get with Jennifer, because I was at the last time, the meeting that Northwest Vernacular had here. I think it was in the library, and all I remember is there weren't many people, but I don't remember what kind of questions people had. Jennifer might remember, because it's 2 years ago.
I wasn't there.
Yeah, I remember you weren't there. Or I might ask Carol. I'll ask Carol to tell me, because I don't remember. Might have even been 3 years ago, honestly. So. Okay, so looking forward to those things. Lots of stuff going on, lots of good things going on. Okay, so project updates. The reconnaissance survey for the fairgrounds is done. The final draft is in the hands of Northwest Vernacular and the state. And the neighborhood reconnaissance survey is done. Same thing, all the data. There's a lot of data that goes with that. That's all been submitted to the state in the report. And we had an interim grant report that was due to the state actually yesterday, Sunday. I don't know why they have a Sunday due date. Tyler did that for us. Thank you very much, Tyler. It's always interesting. So appreciate that. So those, we're kind of wrapping a bow around those projects now. And the official end date of those projects is August 31st. But all the deliverables are done. It's just a matter of having a meeting and crossing the T's and dotting the I's and all of that. So August 31st is the official end date of work that has to be done. And then we have a September date for a final report. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. Okay, so Zion Cemetery, I have a big project plan, which I've used now for a few years, so I'll, dust that thing off and take a look at it. There are a couple of near-term activities that need to be done, nothing significant, but I'll get some emails out, nothing for you all to do anyway. So I'll get the messages out for those. I've already talked to the grounds crew, so they're aware. They're so supportive. I mean, it's so nice to have Mike, the public works group helping us with that. So good. So we'll start getting the word out, probably not till late mid-August. Will probably be the first communication to see about that. And I have a list of all the people who volunteered in the past, cast in concrete, so I always email every single person. And 2 people don't have email, and so I snail mail them an invite every year, and they always come every year. Isn't that awesome? They don't do email and they don't do the internet, so that's fine, whatever. So I send them a flyer, and they come every year, so it's awesome. The time capsule, so there's been some back and forth conversation about that. So the time capsule was intended to commemorate the Sespin Centennial, the 150th anniversary of Canby, and we had such great plans, and then just as we were kicking off the project, COVID happened. So Rachel's been managing the time capsule piece, so thank you very much. You do have it. I think you got some content for it.
It's ready.
It's ready. Okay.
I just need to fill it. Give it to whoever
Do you
needs it.
physically have it?
No, I think it's here.
I think it's out at the cemetery, actually. They have last time I was out there,
Oh, okay.
it's in the storage unit. It's out
Oh,
there.
okay.
Last time I was there, it was there.
Okay.
I don't go to the cemetery, but
I wasn't sure if she had it, but maybe that's where she.
that's typically where that department stores are things. So, all right. So then, when COVID happened, I might not get this quite right, but Kathy Ray Smith, who heads up the Canby Area Beautification Committee, she does a lot of work around town. So we see all the plantings and everything along Highway 99 and many other things, including the mural on the side of the library, which is her artwork, which is totally fantastic. Anyway, she's a powerhouse in our town and gets a lot of things done. She's procured a tree to plant as part of the Sespin Centennial tree. And it's a white oak. And she's been working with the owner of the Historic City Hall, Mary Hanlon. And Mary Hanlon's been working on redoing the space that's between Wayward and the Historic City Hall, the little courtyard there. Big grand plans. It's going to be beautiful. There's going to be lots of hardscaping and statuary and just amazing, as Mary Hanlon does. Everything's amazing. So she wants it there. Kathy and Mary Hanlon want to plant the tree there. That was always the plan. But that's just been getting delayed because of everything that's been going on with the Historic City Hall. So Kathy Ray, the plan was then to have Kathy Ray put it there. She was planning a parade and getting Schrader here, and she knows so many people, and planting the tree and everything. So then that's been delayed. So then the city asked if they could use it for the city arch, because that was the original plan, was to use it for the city arch. Well, I didn't know that. No, it wasn't. That's kind of what I thought too, but whatever. So, but if you look at the arch, there's a spot in the arch to put it.
Well, we talked about that a long time ago. We talked about that, but then said, you're really going to put a time capsule under concrete and then dig it up in 50 years.
It's on the side of the arch. I should have taken a picture. I'll send you a picture.
Yeah, we talked about the original plan was to put it in a tree.
Right.
Under a tree.
Under a tree.
Of unknown origin and an unknown location. The arch came up at a later time, because that's when we said, well, this is delayed, maybe we can put it at the arch. And we said, no, not a good idea, there's not a great location for it. And then it got moved back to the city hall. So it's moved 3 different times.
Meanwhile, it's waiting. Anyway, so I was told by the city, well, we need a time capsule. And I said, no. And they said, well, we'll get one of our own. So that's what I said. Okay. Fine. So, but now well, the city has talked with Kathy Ray Smith, and they may do a ribbon cutting ceremony, excuse me, for the city hall, the historic city hall, and the arch at the same time, September maybe. It's been that, all those things have been that delayed.
Okay, so this September, tentatively,
That's, you're writing that in pen, sorry, you better.
it's going in the minutes.
Anyway, so that's the latest, is that Kathy Ray and the city are working together. But what I'm curious about is, does the one we have fit in the arch?
It probably won't. It's probably, I mean, when I had that ordered 2.5 years ago, however long ago that was, it's a specific size, and unless Jamie gave it to the people building the arch, I mean, how would they know to fix it? I mean, we could look at it and see.
Okay.
So is there 2 time capsules then?
No,
So it is just, so Tracy Hensley is organizing one and I'm organizing one?
the
and there's-
one for Tracy is the 9/11. It's a different one.
Okay,
It's a third one.
so what's the second?
So there's a question about the arch and the city hall.
Okay, I'm just gonna march for it. I mean, I have everything for the one.
I think we should figure out if the one you have fits.
Okay,
And I can go measure, I drive over there after this.
and I
meeting
tried
go
to find
measure
the original order of the sizes that I talked to Carol about, and I don't have it.
Okay, so, well, I can go look at it at the cemetery. Last time I was there, it's out there.
Okay,
I believe the city is working on one for the arch, so your guys' city use at city hall, but I can verify. And let you guys know.
Well, the last message between Jamie and Kathy Ray was they're gonna work together.
Okay, I can verify and have.
Okay. Yeah, it would be good to know.
I've just been sitting on this for.
Well, yours, the one we have will definitely.
Yeah.
It'll have a home.
Yeah.
It's just, anyway, there's been lots of things delayed, which is really, so the city hall, the historic city hall, we had challenges with some changes that were made that should have been, and that got straightened out. But then just getting things through the county, which is no fault of anybody in the city. The county was behind on some kind of seismic studies or something, so it took them a long time before they could get the permits to start doing their building. So no fault of anyone over there. It's just take time. So I don't know. Yeah, so we're still not sure when the ribbon cutting will be for the city hall or the arch. Part of the arch delay has been working with the railroad. And, anyway. But it was funny because you may remember the other part we played in that was we were asked to put together the content for the plaques, the historic content for the plaques. And so when I was asked to do that, I was given a 5-week timeline. 5-week timeline, that was December. Anyway, things happen. All right, so that's it. Well, we kind of know about the time capsule. So how do we find out? Okay, so you're gonna find out if there's 2 or 1, right, Tyler?
I'll verify and let you guys know, yeah.
All right. And if the one you have doesn't fit there, then I know where it's gonna go.
Comparing my background.
Okay, so we're trying. Anyway, sesquicentennial time capsule. The other one, I had a couple more that I didn't have on the list, but the Historic City Hall has had an interesting, kind of fun thing happen. Someone found in their private home, they had some doors that were the original front doors from the 1940s. Somebody that worked for the city long ago, and they were the kind of thing, they were gonna throw them out. And they said, oh, I'll keep those. So he's going to, I can't remember his name, you probably know. I'll have to find his name and send it to you. And so he's going to, anyway, they're going to connect, and he's going to see, I'm giving Mary and Anlin, and she's going to see if she can work them in. And there's a picture of the city hall in the 40s, and the doors are kind of cool. So they probably had to upgrade them at some point for who knows fire, who knows what, but things change over time. But it's interesting though, when you have a lot of turnover of people and staff, and these things always happen in any town, that someone, something's gonna get thrown out, but you have a person that says, hey, I don't know, that may be a little meaningful. And that happened with some slides that Jennifer has. Some slides were all gonna be thrown out. And Jennifer has them because we've been talking about getting them scanned. And there's a lot of historic pictures of things. And that's what happens, you go through a cleanup day in your office, and you're like, oh, that goes. So these doors, somebody had them. You may remember for the Zion Cemetery, was it 3 years ago? The city called me because somebody bought a home and said that they found cemetery blueprints in their home. Do you guys remember this? So the city called, it was right over by your house. The city called me and they said, well, if you want them, go get them. I'm like, okay. And it was a person that had been on the public work, part of public works, like in the 60s. And still had them. So guess where they are? They're in my living room. People are like, what are these? So you roll them all out. Like, anyway, so they aren't the only copy that existed, but it is funny how people find these things that somebody saved because they thought, you know, it might be worth saving. So anyway, the City Hall doors thing is kind of interesting. And then the Depot Museum. So Carol Palmer's been working behind the scenes to do tons and tons and tons of research about, you know, so that we can get it registered as a historic place. And she's just finishing up the application and she's been sending it around to a lot of people. And every time she sends it to somebody, they remember something different or something else. And it's been quite a journey, but that's Carol, and she's so pragmatic, and, you know, she just keeps on getting everything done. So the story of what's happened to it over the years since the 1870s, not that one, but to the first depot to that one, anything. So it's really interesting. I think when you all see it, you'll find it really fascinating. One of the interesting things that came out of it was the original depot before this one. The old original one, I think it was destroyed in 1870 something, and the official record was it was destroyed by a windstorm, but most people, there was some kind of hearsay that came up in people's diaries that there was like a midnight run with a horse and wagon to tear it down because people were so sick of it and they wanted a new one. So somehow in the middle of the night, some clandestine activity, it blew down in the middle of the night. Anyway, so Carol's getting close. It's just a lot of research and a lot of working with, you know, lots of different folks who have all the history about all of this. So that's going to be really fun and exciting to see. So that's all I have for that. Any other questions? Anything? Okay, so I don't have any other discussion items. And then on the back here, some action items, and these are, you know, just, this is me, my project management DNA thing. So just these are some near-term things or things that were in progress since we last met. So we did the annual presentation to the mayor and the city council, and
That was great, by the way.
oh, thank
Such
you.
a good job.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's just because of everything you do. I just put the PowerPoint together. That's the easy part, the pictures. I've been working with Jeff Hiltz, and he's the person that does the repair work out at Zion Memorial, and he's finished. He just finished. And so the entire historic, the historic section of the cemetery has been totally repaired now. This was a 5-year project. And yeah, I don't know if you remember last year, Rachel, you guys found one that was not on the list that was damaged, and he fixed that too. So yeah, so that was good. And I'm sure as we do more work out there over time, we'll find more. But the initial work to get what he found was 5 years ago has all been done. So that's good. We can wrap a bow around that. And I've been updating the project plan for the upcoming cleaning, and we'll go over that if we have time next month. If not, you know, it'll just be individual tasks that go out. One thing that we need some help with, just to keep in the back of your mind, is in the morning, we usually start at 10, but I usually need some help between 9 and 10. And we need somebody to be the sprayer for the day. You could do that, okay? Sprayer. Carol's husband, Craig, did that for many years. So anyway. I think one thing I want to do is, we have section 4 is left. There's still quite a bit in section 4 that we did get done last year. We only had half as many volunteers last year as in the past because of COVID, I'm sure, and other things. So I need to go out with the map and just mark which specific headstones are left, because some people completed a whole row and some people completed a few and then they had to leave. So there's some, you know, individual ones that still need some help, but I'll do that before we have our big cleaning event. So the final, let's see, the certified local government grant, which is for the reconnaissance survey and for the fairgrounds, that went to Tyler, and Tyler gave that to the state, so that's good. Northwest Vernacular is done with their work. Jamie offered to do a press release, so I need to follow up with her about that. Which is always nice. I don't do very good press releases. It's kind of not in my wheelhouse. Finalize the time capsule plan. So this next one, row 16, Tyler just finished that, so thank you. And then 17 is with Northwest Vernacular for their work on the handout. I'm looking to get a copy of the professional services agreement for that.
And you don't have, I didn't send that to you?
No, you said it was approved, but I didn't get the PSA.
Okay,
So if you could-
I will look at that.
Okay, thank you.
And make sure that you get that.
There's no rush on that. It's just, what I do is I collect everything for every project for every year. So the next year, you know, because we don't always have the same people every year. So it's nice to have a whole package of here's everything that we did, because this is a repetitive type project. So it's nice to have everything together. Oh, you did that. You got the PSA, but line 18 is, I'm looking for a copy of it. Because I don't know if you remember, it took us about a month to get approval for that $2,000 project.
Mhm.
And you were waiting for finance, I think. So whatever they gave you, I'm looking for a copy of that.
Okay,
Is
I
that
thought I signed it and sent it back, but
to them?
to you.
No,
Okay, all right, I will follow up and make sure.
Okay,
You just need a signed copy from the city,
yeah,
correct? Okay,
perfect, thank you.
yep,
And then Tyler put in, oh, then we have a final grant report, and that's probably, there's the dates on the right, but that's okay. And that's in September. And then I need to send you a note, Tyler, because we need to order the spray for the Zion Cemetery, but I'll send you a note. We got plenty of time to do that.
okay.
Oh, and then the last one, the planning commission next meeting, which is 2 weeks from today. Way back when we did our historic preservation plan, the 2020 big preservation plan, part of this was recommended city code changes as they pertain to heritage and historic properties and how that's managed. And it's just, a lot of it was wording and definitions, but some of it was just really putting in writing who is responsible for that. And in this case, it's us. So like remember we had the public hearing for the historic city hall. In the past, that wasn't done by the Heritage and Landmark Commission. In the past, that was kind of booted up to the planning commission. But we don't have enough historic properties, it really didn't matter. But in most cities, it's done by the heritage, it's done by a historic review board, which is what we are. And so this solidifies that in the plan. And so at the last planning commission meeting, Jamie was kind enough to put together a presentation. It basically boiled the ocean of our changes and put it on a PowerPoint, which is really helpful for the planning commission to let them know what was different, what was changed. And so those are to be voted on in 2 weeks at the next planning commission meeting, those changes, because they all got copies of them. They all got Jamie's great presentation, so now they can do a think, and then come back. And so we expect that to be approved at the next meeting. And then they have to go to the mayor and the city council to approve that, but we don't expect any challenges. One of the things that came up interestingly as a discussion was the current code. I won't remember it verbatim, I could read it in this report, but the current code is if you have a historic property and you want to get it registered, either locally or by the national registry, there's a process to do that. Or if you're in a neighborhood and you want your neighborhood, if it's 3 houses or a block or 2 blocks or whatever, or you're part of the downtown area, there's a process to do that. And in order to nominate something, the process today involves having multiple people nominate something, especially for a neighborhood, that just to nominate it, you need a certain number of people or percentage of people. And we took all that out. We researched some other towns and found that in most places, anybody can nominate anything. And we even looked at like McFinnville. I looked at the city of Philadelphia. If you decide, hey, yeah, that should get nominated, you can put in a nomination, even if it's not your place. But what they found, some cities thought, well, would that mean there would be frivolous and not, nominations, but there haven't been. It just makes the process a lot simpler. So if I live in my neighborhood and I have a next door neighbor and the two of us want to nominate our block, you can nominate it. It's when it gets to the next steps that people research, are these eligible contributing? Are they significant in some historic way? That's where, things are looked at much more closely about, is this really something that might pass, an actual process to get it, registered. But it's doubtful that'll happen. It's just if somebody wants to nominate their place or their neighborhood, they can do that. So that's probably the biggest change, actually. The state said, why don't you simplify that? Nobody else does that. I'm like, okay. I don't know why it was like that. So, all right, so that's it then. The heritage code change approval should happen in 2 weeks. And that's one thing that's been on our list. This historic preservation plan has been like a roadmap. They gave us a lot of recommendations of things to do over a period of time. Some of these things we have to do to keep our certified local government status, which gives us a lot of grant money. If we don't keep that status, we don't get the grant money. So that's part of the reasons that we are doing these things like the reconnaissance surveys and the code updates and things, because that keeps the state happy. Not the reason to do it, but it's what keeps us, in that status, so we get grant money. So that's it for action items. Yes. That's it for me. Does anybody have anything else? Are we finished already? Well, we've had 30-minute meetings before. It's not often, but we have. Yeah, we are short a couple people. All right, so we will meet August 1st downstairs in our, our new normal, and with Northwest Vernacular, and you'll see some things on. Probably I'll put it on Facebook and ask you guys to like it on Facebook so it gets pumped up. Like I just put it out there. Will you like it, please? Because otherwise it gets lost in the shovel. So. All right, everyone. Any questions from you, Ron? Oh, can't hear you.
I had to unmute myself. Not really, as I had trouble hearing you. It's bad audio.
Oh. Well, sometimes what I found is the Zoom recordings work really well, and if you look at it on YouTube, those actually can be pretty good. So you might want to, if you have access to do that to YouTube, you might want to go out and look at that there.
I'll try that.
Okay. Yeah, because even though you might not hear on your own computer, the recordings here that get posted are pretty good.
Okay.
Okay, Ron, everything okay?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Ron.
Bye.
Later. Okay, everyone, I think we're done. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for joining.